You know. Okay, let me just make sure I didn't miss anybody. Well, if you came in late, you know who you are. Come to me and make sure I got you. I think I got everybody. All right. Your cross and all righty. Sunday of the Holy Cross. We were in church last Sunday. Each week kind of has a theme during the Great Lent. About that. I think I ended on this, I hope. Just going through what Kelly says, with some differences. I did jointly exhaustive, didn't I? But I must have. Yes, because I talked about solar soul. Alrighty. Okay, so I didn't talk about that, but I did talk about the mud skipper. The mud skipper. Interesting. A fish that can breathe air and walk on land, walk with its fins. I told you, the Lord throws us a few curveballs. Remember, science, even science, this should blow your mind, comes from here. Comes from here, you know? What are those, gummy bears?
Yeah, you want one?
No, thanks. I'm not a big gummy bear fan. How they taste? Pretty gummy? Hence, gummy bears. That Miss Basora, gummy bears. Take notes, Ms. Johnson. This is important. The scientific revolution, okay, when you're in your history classes. Yes, they talk about the Renaissance, and then Mr. Brito, they talk about the scientific revolution. I mean, why wasn't there the science? What's so funny? What's so funny? Come on, you can tell me. I'm not going to get angry. All right. Would I have something hang? No? Come on, do me a solid, Ms. Mendoza. What's so funny about me? A button undone or something? Or huh? I'm just being annoying? Oh, someone behind me? Oh, that's too hot for my butt. Please. Anyways, comes from our minds. Okay? These are just what we see. You know, we place this form, gestalt. Anyone take psychology? Taking psychology? Get into gestalt therapy yet? Ever hear about gestalt therapy? No. The German word gestalt? Yes? Hand up or okay. What do I have? No? It's a German word. Gestalt. Means form. Gestalt. I think it means form. Someone wanted to look it up on the internet on like word reference, period, com, and translate from German to English, Gestalt to English, but I'm pretty sure it means form. The forms that Gestalt therapists look at the forms that the mind places on the world. Okay, we place, Mr. Brito, forms on the world. And how we look at the world. In my case, it's religious. Everything is Jesus with me, or related to Jesus. That's fine. You don't have to hang around with me if you don't want to. You're not family. For some people, it's sports. Okay, that's some people it's politics. Some people it's just themselves. They are the basic form they're giving to the world. And, they're kind of like moving through life like that. Okay? That's what we're doing here. Okay? When we're you might say, well, where's the reality? It's like the syllogisms. That's why I wasn't going to focus so much on syllogisms, I thought. I was going to do the chapter on syllogisms, but then I thought, you know what? Reality throws too many curveballs, like the mud skipper. Even for scientists. Reality does not always fit into the gestalt, or the paradigm is another way you could say it. P-A-R-A-D-I-G-M. The G is silent. I won't write it on the board because I'm assuming you're listening. Paradigm. God bless you, woman. Paradigm. However, if you use the adjective, the G comes into play. Paradigmatic. All right, Mr. Naif. What would be an adjective for Naif? Naifian, maybe. Naifian. In the Naifian world. Anyway, how do I still have this here? So, we're looking for what is essential. And a basic rule of thumb for classification is that if your classification starts getting all confused and messed up, there's probably a problem with this principle of finding what's essential. Okay? You should be coming to by specifying and classifying, you should be coming, even with your thoughts. I mean, I'm talking about definitions here in words, but also your thoughts. When you start thinking about something, what is this? You start becoming more specific and digging deeper. You don't want to go into the realm of more confusion. If you're becoming more confused, then at that point you kind of know that you've fallen off the turnip truck. You need to get back on. Okay, you just got to go back and say, okay, what point was it clear to me that it stopped becoming unclear? It's also good for me as an academic. I can tell you my own experience of having read a lot of books, a lot of articles, and myself trying to make arguments and convince people of, say, a position that I hold. If you get to a certain point where it's okay if an argument is flexible, even in the face of challenges, then you probably have a good argument, probably have a point. Even if in some places it's, maybe cracks a little bit, or, you hear a little creak in your argument. If it still is kind of standing up, then maybe you've got something. But when I'm reading some scholars, some PhD, and don't let letters after the name fool you, people with names and letters after their names can be just as dumb, Well, I shouldn't say just as dumb, because that implies that people, excuse me, I apologize, forgive me. But they can, that doesn't necessarily mean they think rationally, is my point. That doesn't mean they don't have an agenda like anybody else. But if the argument starts having too many cracks appearing, then there might be a problem. And you might have to, instead of trying to patch it up, to hide the cracks, go back and say, well, maybe my foundation was wrong. And sometimes the foundation can be right. The foundation of your argument is righteous. It's good. But maybe from that point on, you got confused or whatever. But in some cases, and this is like the fear of a lot of academics, you find out your life's work is junk because the foundation you built it on, you didn't examine properly. And that happens sometimes. And you have to throw it away. Well, you have to be brave enough to throw it away. Like if I... Hello, sisters! The kingdom of God, baby. Why do they wear habits? Why do they wear outfits? They're walking representative of the kingdom of God. Walking amongst them. And they're cute, too. I think they're Korean or something. Anyway. I don't know why they were laughing at me. What I thought. Anyway. So you have to be brave enough to, when you are doing critical thinking, and you come to a point where you're like, there's something wrong with what I think, to you have to be brave enough to throw it out and start again and say maybe what I was thinking was wrong, was based on false premises. Does that usually happen? In my experience, no. No. I've met too many academics that are still pushing something that they've set their life to, even though, it has questions and, whatever. I told you about the Big Bang, yes? Okay, the guy who had the contrary theory, which was really the majority opinion before Lemaitre proposed the Big Bang, which was the solid state theory, that the universe was pretty much, contracting and expanding forever, without beginning or end. Okay, there was no beginning, there was no Big Bang to the universe. It was just always there, and it expanded and contracted. That's how, what's his name? I think it was some British guy, astrophysicist, explained the fact that the universe was expanding and didn't seem to be contracting. He said, well, eventually it would, I guess. But I mean, the guy went to his deathbed, even when all the evidence started coming in, contradicting him. He went to his deathbed still saying, nope, the Big Bang, Lemaitre is wrong, the Big Bang's wrong. Okay. So the rule of thumb is that when you're getting all confused and information starts coming in to contradict you and you're trying to respond to it and it's starting to get all messy, messiness is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you can't clean it up or explain it, then there's probably a problem with your classification. You've probably missed something fundamental or essential in the thing you're trying to specify. And in perhaps most cases, if not many cases, what is essential to something, might cover a whole variety of essentials. For example, does anyone have a Bible with you? Does anyone have a Bible present? You don't have to, come on, Naif, I know you got one. You got one stuck in your back pocket. There's a little pocket, Good News Bible. Come on. Jesus showing you how to hit the curveball. Come on. No? I don't have one either. But if you have it you do have it online if you want to check it up. Leviticus chapter 11. Ms. Robertson, why don't you check that out for us? Leviticus, the book of Leviticus in the Bible, chapter 11. Testament, Amos Sanchez, but this is done, kind of working in, maybe help you out a little bit. Hey, Leviticus, you got it, Ms. Robinson? Just start with chapter 1, but talk loud. Uh-oh, you lost it? Got it, Mr. Nick? You got it? What's the first verse say?
The Lord called.
Oh, okay. All right, I can shut my mouth. You got it? There you go. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, not the whole thing, but just a few verses. Okay, louder. Project. You heard quiet. You got a beautiful voice. Cool. Cud. So what kind of animals does the Lord say the Jews might eat, Ms. Lorenzano? Did you hear what she's saying?
Kind of.
Okay, what did you hear?
Like any animals on the land.
Not just any of the animals on the land, but okay, animals on the land, yes, but what kind of animals on the land? Anyone want to add to the classification of animals that the Jews might eat? Reeves?
The Beast.
Beast? Okay.
Patricia Shelley, along with Beast.
Manessa? Oh, sorry. No. I want you to tell me what she said, sir. You're sitting right in front of her. What did she say? Give me one of the classifications for the animals that the Jews would eat. They actually said it out loud. You were reading, yeah. Okay. Trees again, yes?
The camel?
Huh?
The hoofed animals?
Yes, they had to have hooves. Hooves. They had to have cloven hooves. So cows are fine. Are horses okay? Does the Jew eat horse meat? Huh? Ms. Edwards, you're saying yes, Ms. Robertson. Ms. Edwards says no. Why do you say no?
Wait, what was the question?
Could a Jew eat horse meat, according to Leviticus 11, according to the classification given? A horse has hooves.
Oh, okay, so yes.
So yes, now you're revising it. Okay, was there more to it?
I didn't hear the hooves part.
Cloven hooves, yes, but horses have cloven hooves, don't they? Huh?
Offer bull.
Offer a bull. Okay, we'll stay with that. Cud! Remember cud? What's cud, sir? You, of all people, as a baseball player, should know what cud is. Although they don't, they frown on it nowadays. All the baseball players out there chewing their tobacco, spitting it all over the place. That's basically what a cow is doing, is it regurgitates. There are certain animals that in order to process what they eat, they spit it back up into their mouth, they chew it again, and they swallow it, and they spit it back up, so it looks like they're chewing the cud. The cud is partially digested food. Has anyone ever been to a farm? Ever? Never seen cows going like...
I thought it was not a really good part.
Well, they do. They have like 3
Yeah, they have a really big tongue.
Oh, really big tongue.
Yeah, it's tongue. That's why I thought it was huge.
Okay, so you could eat a cow. Could you eat a horse? A horse has hooves like a cow. Or a bull. Does a horse chew cud? It does? It does? Have you ever ridden a horse?
Yes.
Who's ridden a horse?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Horses chew cud.
I've read the whole thing.
No.
Have you ever watched what a horse does? You watch its mouth. I mean, you fed a horse.
Well, they eat it like so easy.
I have a horse thing on my house.
Okay. Do you see the horses chewing something all the
Yeah,
time?
their mouth is that.
No,
Yeah.
Alright, no, they don't chew. But they don't regurgitate. Alright, what about camels? Camels. Are you in Afghanistan? Do they have camels there?
Yes, they do.
Camels chew cud? Yeah, you just gotta watch out for them. They might spit at you. Spit sometimes. What is cud? Okay, Ms. Johnson, you're on. What is cud? What is chewing the cud? Cud. For those of you who want to know how to spell it, cud. What does it mean to chew the cud? Huh? Who's that?
That's so nasty.
Oh, nasty as in disgusting. Okay, yes. Well, I mean, ma'am, you know, but, you know, that's how they eat. You know, what are they going to do, you know? You're not off the griddle, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Mendoza. Okay, you're off the griddle.
No, I'm not. So, I thought you just said it's when,
Like when animals digest their food, and
Yeah.
they mess up in the beginning and digest their food.
Good. Good. So does a camel, did I say a camel?
Yes, they do.
Does a camel, they do.
Cows do.
They do. So could a Jew, according to Leviticus 11, eat a camel? Could they eat the flesh of a camel?
Can you?
Yes, according to Leviticus chapter 11, which Ms. Robertson just read. A hooved animal that chews the cud. Camels chew cud.
Yes.
Have you seen a camel, sir? Have you ever gone to like a zoo or something? And carnival or
In person?
Sussex County Farm and Horse Show? Mr. Kaiser, have you ever seen a camel? Have you ever seen a picture of a camel? Have you ever seen a camel in movies?
I see pictures.
Okay, well, what do their feet look like? Do they have hooves? Hmm?
I guess.
Why do you say you guess?
I don't know, I haven't seen one in a while.
So you had seen one in the past.
Yeah, I have a good memory.
You don't have a good memory.
Yeah, very shitty.
It's very, okay, we could describe it without an expletive, sir. You could say that your memory is porous, like a sieve. I mean, camels have the same kind of, I don't know if they have 3 stomachs because I'm not a camel expert, but I do know they also, like cows, have to regurgitate their food in order to digest it.
They have a storage pad. I don't know if they got like a...
That's where they store all the water.
Yeah, they have an extra...
There's in the hump. Water is all in the hump. But the moon is made of cheese. Okay, camel, who the heck cares? Just give me a camel. See the image. Oh, I can't? Oh, okay. You tell me I can, all right? You want to play like that, all right? Now I can't go back. Are you kidding me? All right, well, whatever. There we go. I still got it. I'm a hacker. Okay, side view of a camel. Okay, stomach would be in this region. Spits it up into the mouth, chews it, swallows it, chews it. Okay. Do you see hooves here? You see hooves? Really?
The hook for 3.
I see toes. I don't know about you, but I see toes. You don't see. Does that look like what the camel has? I mean, looks like toes to me, and that's a hoof, no toes. Okay, well, take my word for it. Camels have toes. They don't have hooves. Ergo, they are non-kosher for a Jew to eat. Kosher means approved. Remember wonder what the word kosher means? It was stored.
It's going to be blessed.
Yes, also the animal, there are additional rules and regulations about how the animal is killed. The animal should be killed for meat with as little suffering as possible to the animal. And also a rabbi needs to pray over the animal. Now, you know, again, those are additional things. Stay with, yeah, you know, okay. Halal, baby. Well, what do you think the Muslims got some of their rules? I mean, you know, the Jews and the Muslims are from similar cultures. Okay, some of these things, yes, Leviticus has its own God, but, you know, God works also through culture. Okay, and, you know, that doesn't mean that the Jews weren't already avoiding certain meats and certain foods. Okay? The book of Leviticus, as you might know, Mr. Sanchez, first according to the Torah, which God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai, which means that it was given all at once, but as you probably know from Old Testament class, you have JEDP, and this Leviticus would come, deals with like sacrifices, priests, the laws of holiness, like the kosher laws, what it is okay to eat, not offend God, and not okay. So Leviticus would come from which of those sources? JEDP. They're concerned about priests in the temple, sacrifices, and holiness code. It would be not from the Yahwist, not from the Elohist. What type of individual might be concerned with the rules of religion? Huh? Israelites, but which portion of the Israelites? People that, not every Israelite might be concerned about. The Levites, and the Levites were part of what class? It's going to confuse them. So now you're generalizing. We're trying to get more specific. You've gone from Israelites, Jews, down to Levites, but the Levites are part of a broader class. I guess I'm generalizing too, but what kind of class are they part of? Priestly! So the priestly author is the one that Leviticus would be ascribed to because of all the concern about the rules for the sacrifices and all that stuff. Okay, so if you're ever concerned about why Jews eat what they eat and don't eat certain things, Leviticus chapter 11. I didn't read the whole thing because it goes down a whole list of animals. Okay? Why don't you keep on reading it? Well, no, it would take too much time. But a whole list of animals that the Jews cannot eat. Why does it specify them? Because some of them are dubious, like bunnies, rabbits. They have that little tick with it. But they're not chewing cud. We know that they don't chew cud. They don't regurgitate. We know that. The Jews didn't. It looked like rabbits chewed cud to Jews. So they might be kosher. However, do rabbits have hooves? Do rabbits have hooves? Bunnies don't have hooves. They have claws. They have, they have toes. Okay, so therefore, rabbit meat would be non-kosher for a Jew, according to Leviticus. And even parts of the cow, eventually, as time goes by and people classify even more, certain parts of the cow become forbidden, verboten, in Yiddish, non-kosher for the Jews, Simco, like some of the stuff around the groin area, stuff like that. So, yes, Ms. Algren, you're correct. There are further specifications. You cannot eat meat with dairy products, so there are no cheeseburgers, certainly no bacon cheeseburgers. You can eat cheese and a hamburger, just not together. Unless maybe in between bites you wash out your mouth so you don't inadvertently combine the meat that's stuck in your teeth, Ms. Lorenzano, with the cheese that you're putting in your mouth, because you don't want to violate God's law. So if you're getting confused in your classification, try looking for something more specific. The basis of the rule is consistency, not accuracy? No, see, I can't even remember. Not singularity. Okay, so even in the kosher rules in the Bible, God doesn't give just one principle to the Jews. He gives two. Cloven hoof, chewing the cud. Okay? And then you have to try to apply that law, that classification, consistently. Alright? Same thing, as I said, when we come to stuff like the mud skipper or the platypus, or things that seem to throw even scientific classification a curveball. Well, we're still looking for consistency. Okay? It's not singularity. You don't take one thing and say, okay, a platypus has a beak, ergo, which is Latin for therefore, ergo, it is a bird, like a duck. You can't do that. you have to take into account the fact that it doesn't procreate, well, it does kind of procreate like a duck with an egg, but it doesn't exactly procreate like a duck. You know, the fact that ducks aren't poisonous animals, and platypuses, well, whatever, are, and a whole bunch of other things. So you're looking more for consistency than just looking for one silver bullet that's going to say, this is what it is, and nothing else. Because that's reality, okay? We do have to deal with out here, people. There's Nelson! We have to deal with out here. We have to deal with in here. Reality. Reality.
I'm coming.
All right, let's go. Swabby. Don't want to tell you about Aristotle. Maybe, yes. Let's see. Okay, good. In breaking things down, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, that's part of what education is. I mean, that should bring you relief in the sense that you don't, Mr. Brito, constantly have to reinvent the wheel. Where's that word's go? Okay, that sometimes that's been done for us. And, you know, yes, by a lot of times white dead men, but, you know, sorry, you know, if you had been born in the 400s BC, then maybe we'd be talking about you rather than some Greek dude named Aristotle, okay? That's just the way it is. A lot of stuff in life you'll find is chewed meat. Speaking of chewing the cud, it is regurgitated food, you know? I watch trends. I love watching trends because I hate them so much. You know, but it fascinates me when everyone, and I've grown beards, you know, since I was, you know, a young man, but I love it when all of a sudden, like, a lot of people in the culture just decide it's beard growing time. And not just a beard, but like huge, bushy, out of control beards, you know? But not long hair, you know? The hair has to be, well, longish, because you have to gel it up, right? It has to be gelled up and flipped back. Not you, because you don't have a beard, but you don't look like that. But there was a time, remember in the 90s, when every guy had to have a goatee. Not a beard, but you had to have a goatee. You had to have a goatee if you could grow one. Just like in the 80s, all of a sudden, every girl I knew had to have like a scrunchie in her hair. Off to the side. Not, you know, I always had to have it off to the side, you know. This fascinates me because I don't know if I'm missing like club meetings or something.
Mullets are cool.
Mullets were never cool, Mr. Reed.
They were.
They were never cool. Sir? How old are you, sir? How old are you, sir? 28? Ms. Nelson, where are you? Holla, Ms. Nelson. Were mullets ever cool?
They were cool.
Okay, all right. Country, okay, yeah, okay. But then again, I've told you, or maybe I haven't told you that.
You have Trans Am, you should have.
I think those are awesome.
Mullets were the worst
Rat tails.
of the worst.
Yeah, rat tails.
No, rat tails were actually more popular than mullets.
Oh, they are.
Where were you living in?
I was living in the actual world, sir. You weren't born in the 80s. I lived with people who actually had mullets. And I'm telling you, they were not cool. They were not cool. You either had puffy, big hair, you know, unless you were new wave, then you might have it like shaved and like a couple of that. But no, that's the difference between stereotypes of what people look back on a certain, and that's the way it was. You know, it's like no. Oh, you might think they're cool, yeah, but in the 80s, no. I mean, look at all the heavy metal bands. I mean, only like some of the British bands would get away with that because they were foreign. But even a mullet was not shaved. Never. A mullet was you had the hair long, but it didn't go all the way down. You just shaved, you know, you cut it at like the ears. Okay, enough about mullets. But trends, you know, how do trends, how do I get off on trends? Oh, it interests me how, because I've now lived long enough that I notice trends that I grew up with, or trends from previous decades, are like, they're sneaking them back in and saying they're like the new thing. Especially like women's hairstyles. If you look at it, some of the women's hairstyles, they're like from the 70s. They've kinked them up a little bit or tweaked them a little bit, but they've just taken it, and it's like, wait, I remember that from like watching television shows. Or, you know, some of these things, you know, it's like, it's just, anyways, it's funny. It's interesting, but they can get away with it because, you know, you're in your 20s. You didn't live back in the 70s. You don't remember that stuff. You don't remember what kind of hairstyles they were wearing or what kind of stuff they were doing. So, I mean, it's not, you know, okay, you might arrive at that point where you find out that all the original ideas that you think you've had are not so original until they are original. And you have someone like, you know, a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates or, you know, what's his name? I don't want to say P. Diddy, but well, even before him, you know, where you have something really original come out in music or something like that, in culture, in technology, okay? But ideas, a lot of times I've found that, you know, people have been there before. I climbed the mountain of an idea. I think I have this mountainous idea. I climb the mountain of it. I get to the top of it, and, you know, I find a bunch of ancient Greeks and Indians and Germans and Native Americans who are all sitting there having a, you know, a nice little party, like, oh, what took you so long? You know, so this might help you in classifying things. This is a classic way, classic because it's old. Once it becomes old, it's classic. Okay? Classic from the word classes, class. It becomes a class in and of itself for defining classes. And we have to go back to our buddy Aristotle, who thought about a lot of things, and one of the things he did was define the different types of divisions we can have of the world. Remember, he died in the 4th century BC. I gave you his date again, 322. I always forget when he died, so whatever. I have to remind myself as much as you. And there's, I just reused the picture of the bust by Lysippus. Why not? So things, actions, relations, quantities, time and place, things, objects, okay? And this might help you when you're trying to specify something. Is it a thing? Am I talking about a thing? Or is it an action, something that's done? Or is it a relationship? Is it a relationship? Is it a quantity? How much? Is it like a weight or mass? Is it a time I'm talking about? Time. And actually for Aristotle, you have to remember this is before Newtonian physics, modern physics, so we didn't know about that time and place are probably, are two sides of the same coin. Time and space, same difference. Okay, so when you think about it, time in physics is kind of is kind of spatial, believe it or not. Because you don't have time until you have space. And you don't have space until you have the eruption of the Big Bang, the singularity. That's when you have time. So when you don't have space or place, I know they rhyme, but the rhymes just flow from me and you have time. Just like space, you know how physicists treat space like a fluid. We really live in a fluid. And we know this, but we don't realize it. How do I know this? Because I have a friend, Priest now, who was a rocket scientist from Caltech, so he was degrees in physics. And I asked him one time, what is space? You know, what do you get? It's a fluid. It's a fluid. What is that? How do we know this? Because when some of you open that door, it slams shut because I have the window open. That's not wind, that's pressure. And why is there pressure? Because we're in fluid. You ever, when you're watching, you know, ever think why, when you're watching the news, why they tell you what the humidity is or the barometer is? pressure in the air from fluid, the water vapor, which we're all surrounded by. What do you think our atmosphere is? The atmosphere is fluid. Why do we not think it's fluid? Because, well, it's not as massive as, say, the ocean. Okay, but it is. Why do you sweat? Or why do you sweat more, sweat less? Depends on how much fluid is in the air. Anyway, so some of these things don't tie up with actual science, modern science, but nevertheless, for conceptual purposes, they can be helpful. And not just for defining things, but thinking about, your thoughts. Your thoughts. Is a human being a thing, an object? Is a human being a relationship? Am I a human being to the extent that I am in relationship with others? I'm your teacher. I'm a son to someone, a brother to others. Or maybe I'm not a brother to others. Okay? Or am I a thing, an object? I don't really like that because it doesn't take account for subject. In modern philosophy, there's a lot of emphasis, as I told you at the beginning of the course, on subjectivity. Okay? You're not, is a human being an object? Interesting. If you classify a human person as an object, something to be done to, that has all sorts of ethical implications. All sorts of it. If you, Mr. Brito, Ms. Tavares, are something that I can do things to, like fail you. No, don't worry, I'm not out to get you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you, Ms. Tavares. No, I want you all to succeed. I know the ones I want to fail.
Professor, this is random, but what kind of coffee do you drink?
Oh, this is instant coffee. I know it says Dunkin' Donuts I don't like, but I like the cups. This is a Dunkin' Donuts cup with a quick check top. Because there is a design flaw. I know there is. And the Dunkin' Donuts, because they always drip. Always, always, always. But for some reason, quick check it fits perfectly on a Dunkin' Donuts cup, and no problem. But this is, because, Dunkin' Donuts cup, it sucks. It's either too bitter or it's too, too bland. But with instant coffee, I can make it as strong as I want to or not as strong. So that's what I do. And of course, with a few additives, Ms. Alcarid. Legal, prescribed by my doctor. Okay, so learn these, okay? Learn these, that's all I'm going to do. I'm throwing it up there for you to learn them, to help you, okay? Is a human person action? Is a human person action? Are you what you do? Are you an actor? I guess you could put subject in there, something that performs actions. I mean, these are philosophical questions. Descartes defined reality, or you could say the human person, as simply extension. Have you ever heard the famous saying, "I think, therefore I am"? That's from Descartes, René Descartes, a Frenchman. The only thing that was undeniable for Descartes was the mind. That was the only thing that couldn't be denied. That there is. You could question whether you really had a body, question whether there was a reality outside of you, question everything except the fact that you thought. There was some thinking subject. I think, therefore I am. I must exist. So for him, I guess quantity would probably be, place, I think, because for him, the human person was then mind, well, what do you make of the body and the world? It's a matter of extension. like geometric extension, which is an extension of the mind. What the mind can appreciate and can see and can understand. So language. Language is very different. Even languages within the same family can be different. So they're not singular. They don't come from the same source. Not all languages treat language in the same way. And even when they do have a common source, their grammars can be different. Their alphabets can be different. So let me think through language. Defining language, because it's kind of been a running theme through the last few lectures, language. That moment. How would one define language or classify it? Well, let's start out with the general question. What's consistent amongst all the different languages?
Formed by other languages.
Huh?
Was formed by other languages.
Formed by other languages, okay.
English was formed by
Is that it? Huh?
Old English. Most of the words
What are you
come
going to
from
say?
most of the words come from Latin or Old English.
Good. No, it's not. Oh, okay. Latin. Okay. But is English a Latin-based language? Is it essentially, fundamentally a Latin-based language? Is grammar?
Let's say not that small, because I remember talking to my teacher about this. He said that Old English mostly formed our grammar. No, we
Old English was what?
formed our how we
Formed our grammar, okay, yes. And where did Old English, what was Old English more related to? Was it related to Latin?
I don't remember.
Don't remember that? Okay. Does anyone know? Does anyone know? Mr. Kaiser, perhaps? Mr. Kaiser, perhaps?
No.
No. No, of course not. Well, why would he? German. It's part of the Germanic branch. Which is, we're related. We're like long lost cousins in Latin. But we've taken a lot of Latin words into our language. But our language is actually German at its base. Ms. Johnson? Ms. Johnson? Okay. But what's more general than that? I mean, what's the common element of all languages on the planet? Ms. Lorenzano?
Communication.
Good form of communication. For whom? For what? For people who are, what's another way of saying people? Humans. Humans. Human beings. We start with the human being. Plants don't speak languages. Animals don't. Yes, I know animals have communication. It's not the same thing. Okay, again, specifying. Communication is not the same thing. All right, we'll get to that. Human beings have languages. So let's get to the absolute general thing. Us. We have languages. Tables don't have languages. Carpet doesn't have language. The wind doesn't speak language. We speak languages. So what's consistent amongst all the languages? Well, the human beings speak them. They're creations of, wherever they come from, they come out of us. I don't know when I became a spitter. Maybe it's the coffee. But I love it so much. Well, I'll just stand farther away. Sorry about that. Don't sit in this right. Well, you don't like me anyway, so if I spit on you, it'll just show up in the evaluation. Mr. Dunn spit on me. Then I'll be like, that's Kaiser. Okay, well, what's consistent about how these different languages are being used by the human person? Okay, but more specific, more general than just communication. More general than that, because...
Thought into a process.
Okay. Now you're becoming more specific. Become more general. Because a language is a form of communication, but you have things that are not languages that communicate, like codes. You know, there's a military that loves codes. You know, they encrypt all sorts of stuff. You know, so they're not languages. In fact, they're not supposed to be languages. They don't want you to understand them. You know, they don't want you to crack them. Talk about body language. You know, but that's really more feelings. You know, if I feel nervous or angry, the body might react a certain way. You say, well, from his body language, he looked, you know, angry, or you know, he looked like he was happy, or whatever. You know, that's not language. It's not. It's communication, though. It's communication. So go more general than that. How is the human person using? It's very general.
To pass a thought.
Okay.
Thought or an idea.
Good.
Or
You're on the right track, sir. More general, but more specific than human person. But more general than just communicating by passing on a thought. The language is a what? For passing on the thought.
culture.
Culture, good. Culture can be. Vessel. It's another word for a vessel. With a synonym, just something that, you know, vessel. Vessel. Vehicle. Yes, there's another synonym for vehicle. Ms. Johnson. A synonym for the word vehicle. What? Not car. Using vehicle. Why is it called a vehicle? Why is it called a vehicle in the first place? This invention, it does travel, but it is a means for travel. It is a tool, Mr. Reed. It is a medium, Ms. Besora. It is a vessel. Okay? So general, what is the human person using it for as a medium, as a tool, as a vessel, whatever, however you want to put it? For communication. Now we get to the next level. More specific, less general. What's consistent with the means that languages are being used? Communication. That's the general, is a general medium for communication. Okay, so that's that. But there are other forms of communication. Okay, what's consistent, or what is it about this means of communication that makes it different from using music as a form of communication, or body language, dance, whatever, okay? Smoke signals. Well, that it is symbolic. It uses specific symbols to communicate. But again, you know, you can use symbols to communicate in other ways. You mentioned smoke signal. That's, you know, that's kind of, well, it's more of a means. It's not really a symbol, but you know, from the Navy, Ms. Nelson, you know, they got the guys out there, or do they still have the guys out there that do the sign semaphore? Yeah, they still do that, or they just rely on like computer stuff and. Okay, they still have the light stuff. They're, you know, and they use the light thing to send like messages and. Morse, yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, they're using light, they're using semaphore, which are these, you know, various, you know, colors and shapes. So I'm just spelling it correctly. There you go. Yeah, they use all these flags. I just choose anything, it doesn't matter. and how the guy holds the flag means the letter. A is that, B is when they're like that, C is when they're like that. I'm assuming semaphore comes from the Greek semeion and phoro, which means to place a sign, showing a sign. That's kind of like what they're doing. They're showing various signs. Okay? That's how you communicate from ship to ship, from boat to boat. You know, over distances. You know, the boat's 5 miles away. You can have your binoculars. You can see the guy. Okay. S. Okay. Write it down there. C R U W Y. Oh, shut up. Oh, I know that. So if you make an error, you have to put it up and do like that. I mean, I screwed up. I misspelled the word or something, or I sent you the wrong message. Don't send the nukes. You know? Please. So symbols. Okay. Getting deeper, these symbols of language are patterned and formalized. They follow a pattern. Well, so does this. Obviously, because there's the pattern. A, B, C, D, you know, they show you what the pattern is. So how is that not a language? No, we have to get more specific. Not specific enough. What's consistent about the way that a human person uses language and uses these pattern symbols? The pattern of symbols are used to express thoughts, concepts and ideas. So we're trying to reach into the concepts that are in our mind. And no other place. I can't think of any other source for language than the mind. You're trying to express what's in your mind in some way. What in your mind? What is consistent about the kind of thought or concept that's in your mind? That language is a means of communication for being used by the human being. Well, reason thought. You're not trying to convey absurdity. You're not like an absurdist artist. You know, you see some of these paintings, if you go to modern art, especially in modern art, the absurdist school, which is, their whole point was to convey irrational thought. Like a dream-like kind of state, you know? So you look at their paintings and you weren't supposed to ask, what is this? It might look like a human being, or look like a dog, or look like a fruit, or look like a place, or, you know, an island or something, but it's not. It's not the point. You're not supposed to think rationally in looking at the person's painting. And yet, they are using symbol, they are trying to communicate an idea, but it's an irrational idea. Language is not that. Language, if it's irrational, makes no sense. Even as I mentioned with code breaking and code encryption and stuff like that. Encryption, the best encryption is supposed to be irrational in the sense that you can't find the key. But there has to be, it's a weird thing, because there has to be some sense of rationality so you can break it if you need to. Like you encrypt your iPhone, or you encrypt your phone, but they give you like a passcode still, don't they? It's like if you need to unencrypt it, it's you and you need to get into your phone, but you don't want someone who might swipe your phone and steals it to get in. So you're expressing, you know, you're using patterns and symbols to express thought, rational thought. And that's as far as I could really go myself. So for me, language is any means, I'll repeat this, but language is any means, any tool, any medium by which the human person wishes, I guess that's it, through patterned symbols or formal symbols to express his or her rational thought. And I wrote down here to another, but the more I think about that, not necessarily, because you can write stuff down just for yourself, like a reminder. Yeah, it was language, and I'm recording it, so If you still don't get it, then I'll put it up on YouTube. And I have put some stuff up on YouTube recently, so check it out. Language is any means, any tool by which a human person, human being, tries or wishes through pattern symbols to express his or her rational thought. And it has to be broad enough to include things like sign language, which is symbolic. But we wouldn't call semaphore really a language. Maybe a subspecies of language, I guess. But semaphore here, I think, is more of a symbolic, maybe form of alphabet. That's not really a language per se. You're taking a language, English, in this, well, any language that uses this alphabet, I should say. Let's say English, but any language that uses this alphabet, and using that to communicate. If it were Spanish, you'd have to add some stuff for different letters in Spanish. If it were Russian, it's a completely different written alphabet, so you'd have to do it differently. So I wouldn't say this is a language. It doesn't fit in, even though it is a pattern form of expression. You're trying to express rational thought, and you are using a human person. But I'd say maybe the means are different. The tool that's being used. The alphabet is prior to the flags and the waving them and all the other stuff that you're trying to communicate. Whereas with an alphabet, you just write it down. If I just write down the message with my alphabet, you know it. But here I'm taking an alphabet and then I'm having to convert it into something else, you know, with the flags and the movements, stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? Allah? Yes? No? Yes, sir.
Now, is it just humans, or could it be animals, like a monkey
No.
learning sign language, or
No.
a dog telling you have to go out to the bathroom?
Does that fit in the definition? Are they human persons?
They can put a form of communication. They communicate.
It's a form of communication. That's fine. That doesn't mean it's a language. Remember, we addressed this. There are forms of communication. Oh, yes. Birds communicate to each other. Animals communicate to each other. Plants communicate to each other. You know, you can have things that are totally non-rational communicate. For example, and I use this, don't take this the wrong way, biology fascinates me. And I did not know this until I was in my 30s. I was sitting in a class, actually it was a class on biblical studies, but anyway, and some of the women in the class were talking about their living arrangements. I guess they were living together in an apartment or something, or in a residence. And they were talking and joking about the fact that it was, you know, just kind of inconvenient because when women live together, their periods, their menstrual periods start to sync together. And all the women in the residence were all having their periods at the same time. Huh? Huh? Yeah. No one's had sex ed. You've never had sex ed.
It's like hormones, right?
Yes. Women emit, and men, of course, too. When a woman is fertile, when her body is fertile, it's ovulating or about to ovulate, and that's what the whole menstrual period is about, yes? If the egg is not fertilized, what happens? It comes out in a bloody issue, you know? That's what the menstrual, that's what the blood is, you know, the lining of the uterus and the air that comes out because nothing happened. There was no impregnation. Or there was no impregnation because there was no fertilization. But women give off, you know, I'm not pheromones, but they give off a certain scent, I guess you'd say. I'm not a biologist, but and when they live together, apparently their cycles will start to sync because they'll smell each other. Perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. We're animals. It happens in the animal world all the time. Anyone who has a cat, a female cat, when the cat goes into heat every month and howls and rolls around on the floor, puts her butt up in the air, she's calling, she's sending out not just bodily signals, but bodily signals, but she's also sending out scent from her body to the male, whatever male is around, that she is having her period and she can see. We're animals too, we just don't. But it just fascinates me that that does actually happen with us. We do have that, or at least for females. I don't know how it affects men, but whatever. That's communication. That's completely non-rational. That's not a body. That's just a body doing its biological thing. So it's not just a matter of communication. Yes, animals can communicate. Yes, you can teach Coco sign language, and Coco can tell you, I want Coco. But who taught Coco the sign language? Coco didn't come up with it by herself. You had a bunch of human beings there who were teaching Coco over and over again, this is how you do it, Coco. Okay. Remember, next week is the spring break, so there's no class. I won't be here. You can bet on that, Miss Monte, Miss Montalvo, Miss Lorenzano, in a week or so. God bless you.
Have a nice weekend.
You too, thank you.
Like to look at it.